Good day and welcome to a series of AI use in newsrooms. This is a series launched by AIP to help its members and other publishers around South Africa best navigate the space of AI. As part of this AI series, we have a number of publications that will be sharing their AI use. And in this series, in this episode, we would like to introduce to you a publisher by the name of Anton van Zyl, who is a publisher of Zoutpansberger and I think Limpopo Mirror as well. And he will share with us in his presentation how he's using AI in the newsrooms and potentially some nuggets on how you can also adapt and adopt AI in your newsroom workflow. So please stay tuned and keep following the series. It's the first of its kind for South Africa and also the first of its kind for the independent publishing landscape.
So hi to Chris and all the other publishers. So Chris asked me to quickly sort of delve into the way we use AI. I'm not going to go into all the ways that we use it. I think we can do a separate part for investigative journalism. But for now, let's just let me show you more than tell you about how I normally use it and also how we encourage our journalists to use it. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here. 1 second. Okay, so one of my favorites, and I presume for most of you, would be ChatGPT, but it's horses for courses. You use it for different types of things. So the important part for me is to set up ChatGPT correctly. I like ChatGPT because you can do that where you can't do it with some of the other AI tools, for instance, DeepSeek. Even Claude, you can't do that. Now, it's not too complicated to do that. You go to your settings, and in your settings, you've got a personalization where you can put custom instructions. So if you go to the custom instructions, you'll see what I've done here. Firstly, I've asked it to do a grammar check. If I do a grammar check, to use SA English, not UK English or US English, stick to SA English. And then, very importantly, okay, I'll get back to Reuters. I also say, I tell it not to paraphrase. I don't want it if a reporter goes and spend a lot of time getting a quote for ChatGPT to mess up that quote, to change it. There are ethical issues and also accuracy issues. So tell it no, leave that. Then I tell it to use the Reuters style sheet. For those of you not familiar with the Reuters style sheet, download it. You can use others as well. AFB, you can use, there are a variety, but preferably stick to a South African type of style sheet. Let me see, I think I've got let me quickly share that, and let me share there's a Reuters, that's a Reuters Handbook of Journalism. I think it's a 535-page style guide, but it tells you about, it gives you so many sort of guidances, how to deal with photos, reporting about people, and then it goes into quite some detail in terms of how do you deal with quotes. Okay, but that's a separate one. Let me close it. For now, I tell it, use the Reuters style sheet, and from there, it's actually quite good in picking up that. Okay, so that's it. Once you've set that up correctly, you can add more to that, whatever you feel your personal sort of preference are, put it there. Okay, so let me go into more detail and see, okay, Normally, I would just tell it to do a grammar check, but on occasions, I would say, okay, listen, I'm getting material that is not very coherent. It's not, and before I'd first read through that, but I would be tempted to just run it through ChatGPT and say, okay, so analyze it and make it more coherent. So let's look at an example. I think I've got one example here of a story. For this one, I have not worked through this. All that I've done is just clean it up slightly in Word with spacing, etc. Now, this specific story concerns a grade 12 learner at the Johannes Mushatama Secondary School at Shirole. Now she's pregnant, and then she alleged that she was refused permission to go to school. She didn't use words. Well, she basically said expelled, but if you read through the story, she was basically told, no, go home, get your baby and come back. But anyway, this is the story. This is how I got it. So I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to paste that into ChatGPT. So let's go to ChatGPT. Obviously, the important part of any AI is the prompt that you give it. What do you ask it to do? Because that will influence the outcome. So I'm going to tell it, please. I tend to like to ask it, please. Maybe it's just over courteous, but anyway, I normally start it with please do this and do that. Please analyze this article and make it more coherent. Now, I'm not even going to bother to tell it to check the language because the output will actually, once it's given me something, it would have already fixed the grammar. So obviously, there you can see already that it acknowledges that it will follow SA English and the Reuters style sheet. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. I'll do a Control V and I'm going to paste it in. Okay, so let's see. Pregnant people, it suggests heading. One of the bad things about AI and ChatGPT, for one, it's not always that predictable. You think every time you're going to do it, it's going to give you a heading, or it's going to do this, or going to do that. Well, it's not. It's got its mind of its own. Okay, so then obviously I've got my story, and I can go through that and see. Okay, so at least now it is easier for me to go through, understand, and find out what it's about. Okay, so I can now copy that. I normally thank it, and this is called thanks. The reason why I'm saying thanks is to end that conversation, because I'm not going to ask it again and again to do a grammar check. I'm just going to copy in the next article, especially if I do grammar checks. I would run 5 to 10 stories through it, just put it in. And if I put thanks, it seems to know that the previous one is ended. It now needs to focus on the rest. But again, a lot of these are sort of trial and error, whatever works for you. Okay, so going back to my original story, I can obviously now replace that with the edited one. But now that's only part of it. I'm like, AI is not just a grammar checking tool. You can use Word for that as well if you want to. It's much more than that. So now I'm going to go and I see, okay, this article concerns pregnancies. Okay, and there's some reference later on, the Department of Education spokesperson. It's got the school governing bodies chairperson. Basically, they're saying that no, that's their policy, and so I think, okay, well, let me go and check and see what the policies would be. Okay, for that, I've got several AI tools that I can use. So let's go to another one of them. Let's go back to, this is my ChatGPT. Let's go to one of my favorites, Perplexity. Now, I've already done this in advance just to save some time. Perplexity, to me, is quite useful because it seems to work in a slightly different way, and it tells me the sources, which ChatGPT does not give me the sources. So what I've done here is I've asked Perplexity, what does the SA Schools Act stipulate as far as pregnant learners are concerned? So immediately, obviously, it gives me, it pulls from its resources, and it tells me no, they're not allowed to discriminate, Asian. But what I'm after is the medical requirements. I mean, this girl was seemingly over 6 months pregnant. Okay, so there I get, no, they are sort of required to submit a medical certificate. Now, this alone gives me a lot. I can add that to the story, or I can bring it in a little box on the side of that story. But it's important information, but I can go back. But I'm not going to take Perplexity as a source. I need to go back to some of the sources. Now, the sources would be shown there in the little 1s, 2s, and 3s. So there's one government one, there's health.gov, or there's a learner, there's a section 27. All three of these should be very reliable sources of information. Let me open up health.gov. And let's see what health.gov says about that. This would be that'll give me a policy on prevention. There's a policy on prevention. So I can search inside I can see what they say about dignity, accommodation. I can get more information from that. I can also, let's go to the government's official one and the draft policy on prevention and management. So already I can use this, and very quickly I can get more information. Only if I want to add a paragraph, I can basically now go back and I can say, okay, the SA Schools Act states that learners who are over 6 months pregnant are required to submit a medical certificate. I need to just read through it carefully and make sure that this is also in line with the Limpopo sort of policy, or if there is one at that SGB. But okay, the idea again is to enhance that article. But now I can go further and I can say, okay, how serious is the problem of teenage pregnancies in, firstly, the country, and then in Limpopo, and then the Limpopo district? Okay, for that, I'm using another AI sort of client, Claude. I'm just using a few of them to show what they can do. And I think it's always wise not to stick to a single AI program. Use Perplexity, use Notebook, ChatGPT, Claude. There are many. Some of them are easier to use than others. Find out what works for you, but I would say don't use any one. Okay, going back to Claude, I'm using Claude and I say, okay, I gave it the prompt, can you tell me how serious is the problem of teenage pregnancies in South Africa? And I ask it with specific reference to the Vemby district. Okay, so now it obviously took a few seconds, and then it gave me very interesting statistics. The latest district health barometer shows that close to 365 teenagers give birth in South Africa every day. 10 of those daily teen births are to girls younger than 15. Okay, so this means approximately 133,000 teenage births. Very interesting. Then it gives me a bit about Vemby. Currently, there are about 775 teenagers that are pregnant. Okay, but again, this is a start. I'm not going to take this as, okay, and just copy it and use it in my story. I first need to go back to the source. So Claude is quite nice. It shows Bikisa. Bikisa is well known. There's a call for the DA. I would try to stay away from politicizing the issue. There's one from it's a journal one, but let's go to the first one. The Bikisa Center for Health and Journalism is well known. It's it's not a bad source to quote from. And I can now sort of go and I can see, okay, it's, I want to see where they got the stats from. And these figures are fairly recent. I don't think you're going to get more recent figures from the 2022-23 District Health Barometer. Okay, so I can use this in the story to try and explain the problem of teenage pregnancies. And then also I can go back to Claude and see what the see anything in Venby that I can use. It might become more complicated, but still the same thing goes. I'm using AI to put me sort of on the right path, sort of to show me where I can find information that would be relevant to my story. Once I'm obviously finished with this, I'm sort of adding now to it. I'm sort of checking stuff. I finish the article with, and then I will run it again through ChatGPT just to do it, to do a final sort of analysis and just do the checking. Then I can also, let's say, for instance, I'm going to go back to this and I'm going to say, okay, this is way too long. Not that it is that long, but okay, I, for instance, may not have that space for it. And I can sort of ask it, say, listen, can you shorten the article on, or let's just the previous article to roughly 300 words, and it should be able to quickly sort of give me a shortened version of that. Very important is to always go back and check. Below here, it says ChatGPT GPT can make mistakes. Check important info. Yes, it's absolutely correct. I mean, the past week I had 2 instances where ChatGPT changed the meaning in a story. And one of these instances actually seemingly fairly carelessly so. So you have to go back. You have to recheck it. Okay, but anyway, there's your story now in a 300 word format. I can then also ask it, you know, for a suitable heading, please give to-deck heading for print. To-decks obviously in like 2 lines, so there's like, it'll give you a few samples. I'm not very keen on really using that. Mainly I use ChatGPT just for grammar checking and to sort of clean it up a bit and make it more coherent. I would use Perplexity for queries if I want more information because it gives you the sources. And the same I would use Claude, and then, which I think we'll leave for a topic for another session, would be how to use AI tools such as Notebook LM, Pinpoint, which are excellent for investigative journalism. And let's stop sharing and put myself back. And that's it. Hope it helps.